Look how consistent these are. Here's the one we did our adjustment with. This is Dave with the Crafted Channel, and I've identified a problem with my small drill press. Put a few holes in this sample piece of material. At my business, I have what I would say is this exact same drill press. It was made many years later, but was made all out of the same castings. Whenever you see these small benchtop drill presses, they are always 5-speed drill presses with a 3rd-horse motor. Very common. And I had a part at work that I needed to countersink all of the holes in this part for a flathead screw like this one. And so what I did was I set my depth stop. So here's my depth stop, and I'm going to adjust this. For a proper countersink. That should be about right. Let's try one. So here's my fastener. Oh, it needs to go in a little deeper. There we go. Nice, relatively flush fitment of the fastener. But I noticed when I did these holes that they all came out different. Look at the different sizes. And I ruined a couple of parts that I'd made on the 3D printer. So here's our original hole. Here's the next one, about the same. Here's the next one. Oh, that's below the surface. What happened there? Well, that one's a little high, a little proud. Well, this one's really below the surface. That doesn't look very workmanlike. That's terrible. Well, what's going on here? How this functions is this block holds this shaft to the quill. The part that goes up and down on your drill press is the quill. And I'm calling this the depth stop yoke. I'm not sure what it's officially called, but I would call it a depth stop yoke. So when you adjust this nut to limit the travel of the quill, and that all seems to make sense. And so you can repeat holes at the same depth over and over and over again. You might be drilling a pocket hole to stand up drill bits in, or you might be doing the countersink for flathead screws like I did there in my example. Many reasons to have a depth stop on a drill press. But it doesn't work on this drill press, and here's why. Watch our yoke. We hit the stop, and look at it. It's flexible. And I see that it's moving on the quill a little bit too. But look how much this bends. It's just, it would be really nice if this was a cast iron or billet or cast aluminum part. But in cheapening up these drill presses, that's one part that they think a lot of people won't notice the quality of, and perhaps they won't. That's one thing they cheap up. And, if this isn't going to be stiff and rigid and able to hold this adjustment, well, there's no sense in putting a quill stop assembly on a drill press whatsoever. So I thought, I can fix this. I can make a new part here that's stiff, or at least a lot stiffer than this part, to improve this problem. So let's tear this one down. There's a nut on the bottom of this, requires a 10mm wrench. And here's the stud that was in there with our adjuster and our pointer. We'll set these aside. I'm going to put the nut back on here. Don't want to lose it. Here we have a Phillips fastener. And this is holds on. It's a pinch bolt actually. We'll take that completely out. And then this part will flex over the chuck very easily. Look how flexible it is, how soft the plastic is. This is not an appropriate material for this application. Here's our factory part. And here are the parts that I have made to replace it. Now this is a much, much stiffer. I cannot feel this flexing just barely. It takes a lot of force, and you can't even see it flexing. This is a lot beefier arm to hold our quill stop bolt. And then here's a cap. And I originally made this so that it worked just by trying to flex this open and get it around the chuck, but that didn't work very well. In fact, it was so stiff I couldn't get it around the bead that's on the quill. And by bead I mean this part right here. I couldn't even open it up enough to get it around that. Here's a screenshot of my STL file I made on Tinkercad. STL is the type of file 3D printers need. Let's see what it looks like printing. So let's install one of these on the drill press and see how much better it works. So here's a couple of these caps. Notice this one has a hollow groove in it, and this one seems to be full. Well, it is full of what we call support material. These parts were made on a 3D printer, and a 3D printer cannot print overhangs. So it builds this weak structure, kind of a bridge-like structure in here, and then prints on top of it. And this is brittle and will chip away easily. So we need to start chipping this away. And essentially you can just take like a small screwdriver and start prying it out. It's not actually against the back wall of the hole, but it's on the floor down here is where it's connected. So we can see it breaks out of there relatively easily. Got most of it cleared out there pretty quickly. I'm just using the edge of the blade here to scrape along the surfaces. Now notice this hole that a bolt's going to go through is full. That hole is large enough that it can't print the overhang in the center of the hole, so it builds a little structure to hold that up. This is actually the top here. Builds a little structure so it can print the top of the hole without it falling in. Remember, when a 3D printer prints, it's just squeezing out molten plastic. It can't really suspend itself in the air. And these supports you can usually just push right out of the hole. Now I'm going to do the business end. Since I've got the cap done, these little triangles look like teeth in here, kind of. Just putting a slot screwdriver behind it and peeling them out of there. One more. Now I'm going to scrape the floor where all those little things were attached. just to get any extra little bits of stuff in there that might still remain. Look at the top of the hole, it's clean. And we got the bolt holes in this part with their supports. Get that stuff off of there. Now this hole here is bigger. We're going to put a nut in here for the 5mm bolt. That one's a little cleaner. So dig around in there and get anything loose out. There we go. Now I have a number 11 drill bit here, which I believe is 191, which is about the same as a 5mm bolt. So I'm going to use it to clean these holes up. I'm going to do this project over a block of wood, and notice this part isn't straight across here. It's got a little curve to it. This surface back here is perpendicular to the hole, so I can rest it on the edge of a board and do my drilling to clean the hole out. We want to be careful here. We don't want to split or break the part. You can see there's almost nothing to take out of there. Let's see if the bolt fits. Look at that. Goes right through there. Right through there. Piece of cake. I've got a couple little more things to clean off here. There we go. This surface should be flat and this should be flat. And this groove should run around here cleanly without any junk or obstructions in it. That part's ready to use. Something we got to clean up carefully is these hexagonal holes we're going to insert the nut in. And you can use an X-Acto knife. I have an ice pick here, something with a point on it. I want to scrape around in there and make sure there isn't any support material. Anything that's in that hole could interfere with the nut when I'm pressing it in and cause the nut to be crooked or possibly split the part. So I've put a punch in here inverted so I can use the flat side of the punch to push in my nuts. These two nuts are the one that came with it and one that I'm adding. Remember, one we removed from the poor quality yoke. And I'm going to use the drill press here as a press to push these nuts in their holes. That'll straighten out because I'm only pushing on the high spot. There we go. So that one's pressed in. We'll press this one in on this side. So there's our nuts pressed into the hex holes. You could use a cut-off bolt for this, just anything with a flat bottom that you can put in your chuck. A drill press is a handy tool for pressing things in as long as the forces aren't high. Here's another way to press these nuts in. I've threaded my fastener into the nut, and this fastener that goes in the back, the hole is deeper than the nut. We want to make sure we get that fully seated. If that's not fully seated, we won't have enough threads to reach it. But that's an alternate way to push things in. You can close your chuck up and just use the front of your jaws to push on something. You want to check this hole to make sure there's no debris. This is where our depth stop adjustment rod is going to go. We use the press to push this into position as well. Make sure there's nothing underneath of it, because the threaded tip goes through it. Okay, there we go. You can Install its nut. Just a light snug, doesn't need to be tight. Take this pointer off and the nuts. If we run the quill all the way down, we should be able to negotiate this into position. Don't force it, you don't want to damage the threads here. There we go. Roughly in position. Alright, let's install the cap. This lip here with the smallest radius goes to the bottom. The biggest diameter of the hole goes to the top. Our original fastener goes in the back. Extra fastener goes in the front here. And we put it on the quill. The front one we're going to pull together completely. And this doesn't need to be tight, only snug. About right here is where the fastener touches off hard. In other words, we've pulled the part all the way up, we've come to a stop, and now a snug is just going to be less than a quarter turn, maybe an eighth of a turn more. And now it's time to tighten the fastener up in the back. Confessions! This rear bolt, the factory bolt, is really too short. I'm not getting enough thread engagement in the nut. So I replaced it with a socket head cap screw that's 5 millimeters longer. And if I ever offer these kits to update these drill presses, it'll include this lengthened fastener for the back. So let's try out our new depth stop yoke. We'll start by drilling a series of holes. A little rock in this wood. Try out our trusty fastener. That's pretty nice. Could go just a skosh deeper. Let's go ahead and do that. That's very flush. Let's do the rest of them now. Feels so much firmer coming down. Ah, nice. Very nice. Look how consistent these are. Here's the one we did our adjustment with. Very pleased. Very pleased. This has been a worthwhile project. So in recap, we replaced this flexible, terrible, worthless depth stop that comes on all these drill presses with a 3D printed one made out of ABS that's much beefier. The arm is much thicker, it's much tougher, it's got good quality fasteners, it locks onto the machining that's available on the quill here. This one here, well, it was just terrible. It moved around on there. Just horrible. But these are really like the cheapest drill presses money can buy, have been for years. You got to expect them to cut corners in places where they don't think people will notice it. And that's what they've done here. But we fixed that. I plan on offering this as a channel support item. And when I get it listed on eBay, I'll stick it there. That's an easy way for me to do this. I hope that you'll be inspired to make practical objects with your 3D printing, if you're into that. That's what I'm interested in, is practical 3D printing. and I'm making parts for my tools. I actually have plastic parts running on my Atlas lathe, and I'm making even more. Some things you haven't seen yet. So this is Dave with the Crafted Channel, wishing you all the best. Get in the shop, get your hands dirty, make something. Make something with your hands. Clean your shop up, organize. I've been putting things away in my shop every day, trying to make it more organized than I really am. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share.